Hey hunters, Lord here, back with another Iceborne set video. I've started working through weapons that I know best, and am setting up a series of videos covering endgame sets for these weapons. So far, I've already covered Heavy Bowgun and Greatsword, so if you're interested in seeing endgame sets for either of those weapons, I'll be sure to put links in the top right now, as well as down in the description. Today's episode will be covering endgame Chargeblade builds. I've got 3 different styles of build prepared for you guys. The first being an Unga Bunga Caveman SAED playstyle set, which is best for slinging impact files at monsters and dealing crazy damage. The second is a raw Savage Axe set, made for slicing through monsters, pizza cutter style. And finally, I have a set prepared for all 6 of the elements. A few quick disclaimers. First, just remember these are going to be endgame builds, and therefore these will require the farming of endgame monsters like Fatalis and Safajiva, as well as having a decent endgame decoration collection. If you're not in the endgame, you could consider checking out my progression guide, where I went over armors and weapons that are solid for every part of this story, from base world all the way through the guiding lands in Iceborne. The second thing is, just because I use a skill doesn't mean you have to, and just because I don't use a skill that you might prefer doesn't mean that you can't use it. It's a game, and you can of course play how you like and use the skills that you like, and you can remember that you can use these sets as a template to customize to your liking. You don't necessarily have to copy it 100%. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Up first is the SAED Impact File Chargeblade set. Obviously, just like with most raw focused builds in the endgame here of Iceborne, we'll be using the Fatalis weapon with 4 pieces of Fatalis armor, as well as the Culve Beta legs. The charm we'll be using is the Challenger Charm 5, and our main skill priorities here are Attack and Agitator level 7 for a huge damage increase, then the most important skill, which is Artillery level 5. This gives us a 50% damage boost to our impact files. We then use Focus level 3 for a faster double slash, as well as a quicker file charge speed, allowing us to charge up files for throwing down range much quicker. We then have Offensive Guard level 3 for a plus 15% attack boost for 12 seconds after perfectly blocking an attack. This works with Guard Points, which is a necessary Chargeblade skill, and you should definitely be using those often to help get extra damage. Finally, Capacity Boost is a massive damage increase for Chargeblade, as it gives us an extra file, bumping us from 5 to 6, which is a 20% increase in file damage. You can swap Guard down to level 3 or even level 1, as a fully charged shield effectively provides 2 levels of guard. It doesn't work exactly like that, but it does lessen impact overall. So basically, guard 1 with a charged shield will be enough for most attacks, not all, and guard level 3 with a fully charged shield is typically enough for 99% of hunts in the game. I personally went for 5 levels because I had room, but this is a spot where you could definitely drop some levels to customize it if you want to swap in some other skills that you like to use. This set overall works for everything, as impact files work very much like sticky bowgun ammo, in that they mostly ignore hit zones and deal a fixed damage amount. Be sure to also eat for Feline Bombardier when using impact files, as you gain an additional 15% file damage that stacks with Artillery. Now do note that Artillery and Feline Bombardier only work on impact files, and do not in any way affect elemental files. Moving on to raw Savage Axe, the set does change just a little. We're dropping the Culve Beta legs in favor of the Elatrion Alpha arms. However, the weapon and 4-piece Fatalis bonus do remain the same. Since we're not relying on files for damage here, we actually drop all 5 levels of Artillery completely, and we just stack raw and crit skills. Files can't crit, but your weapon can, and Savage Axe relies heavily on weapon attacks instead of file attacks. Personally, I love having earplugs here, as it allows you to keep pizza cutting through the roars, but if you wanted to build for max DPS, you'd drop earplugs and instead you'd swap in Peak Performance level 3. Now I think that Power Prolonger is a slept on skill for Chargeblade, and typically we don't prioritize it, but since Savage Axe is dependent on having a charged shield, the additional plus 40% charge time is invaluable. If you have a full 6 files and charge your shield, you go from 180 seconds of shield charge time to 250 seconds. This is over a full minute extra of pizza cutter uptime, and I think it's just a great quality of life skill to fit in. Now I know I said we're not relying on files very much, but you should still eat for Bombardier with this set. as the extra 15% damage to files is nice to have, as you'll be connecting with a lot of file hits during your Savage Axe play anyway. Last, but most certainly not least, is Elemental Charge Blade. Now these sets will work great with both Savage Axe and SAED playstyles. Now for every set, we'll be running 5 pieces of Safajiva armor with the matching Elemental Kiar Charge Blade, with just one exception. Dragon Element Charge Blade actually uses the Elatrion Charge Blade for SAED playstyle, since it has higher Dragon Element than the Kiar Decay, meaning your files will hit for a little bit higher damage. However, if you plan on playing Savage Axe Dragon Element, since that relies heavily on melee hits, you'll instead want to use the Kiar Decay, since the Kiar weapons have innate critical element, and this one has higher raw and more affinity than the Elatrion Charge Blade, meaning that its weapon attacks will deal more overall damage than Elatrion. Overall, the sets for all 6 elements are nearly identical. They really only change based on the slots we have available in each weapon. For your Kiar weapons, you'll want to custom upgrade them for maximum element, and then augment any elemental weapon for full element. Since we have no way to manage sharpness, I've opted for Protective Polish for that 60 seconds of unlimited sharpness after you sharpen your weapon. Do remember though that sharpness does not affect your file damage, so if you're playing SAED style, dropping down a level of sharpness occasionally isn't that big of a deal. The 5 pieces of Safajiva armor give us a plus 40% affinity bonus and a whopping 150 element when our weapon is drawn, and it boosts our overall elemental cap, allowing us to reach higher total element numbers than if we used any other set. The charm of choice is going to be the element charm level 5 of whatever element you're using, and then you can just enjoy some juicy numbers. So that's about it for this one, guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you did enjoy any of the sets, be sure to leave a like down below to support the channel totally for free and to help other hunters find this video. If you're new to my channel, new to Monster Hunter, or if you just liked what you saw, do consider subscribing. Again, I'm going to be covering a lot of endgame sets for many different weapons here in the near future, so if that sounds interesting to you, then that's the best way to make sure you never miss an upload. With all that being said, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching, wish you all a good day, and happy hunting.